They always started those Monday all hands calls with fake energy. A dumb little quote, some sales chart nobody cared about, then a round of shout-outs from teams I didn't even work with. I was halfway through my second cup of coffee, camera off like always, clicking through emails when I heard my name. Todd, we know you've been exploring outside opportunities. As per policy, your Q4 bonus is withheld. That was Chad Jr., saying it like he was reading the weather report, in front of 200 people. My screen didn't freeze, but I did. Pen in hand, I wrote the exact time stamp on a sticky note. Didn't say a word, didn't even blink. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. The call kept going, like nothing had happened. Nobody jumped in, not even the VP I'd worked under for 10 years. Just awkward silence for a beat, then back to the deck. My inbox lit up after the call. Pings from junior analysts I'd trained, people I'd mentored since they were interns. Stuff like, dude, what was that? And we had no idea, I swear. One even said, is that even legal? I didn't answer. I wasn't mad at them. They weren't the problem. They were background noise now. 15 years I gave that place. Started in the warehouse, third shift, building intake logs by hand because we didn't even have a real system yet. Worked my way up one screw up at a time. No degree, no family name, just time and sweat. And now I'm being punished for a rumor. No proof, no warning. Just yanked my bonus like they were flipping a light switch. Chad Jr. didn't even look nervous when he said it, probably because he never earned a paycheck that wasn't signed by his dad. Hair flopped over one eye, same hoodie he wore when he was an intern. Only difference now? A fake title and a license to ruin people. I didn't lose it. I didn't message back. I didn't call HR. I didn't go looking for sympathy. What I did was simple. I shut my laptop, walked to the kitchen, poured another cup, and sat down at my dining table, the one I bought after my third promotion, and pulled out a legal pad. I wrote the words, "This is where it starts," across the top, underlined it twice. Then I wrote everything I remembered from that call, names, phrases, exact wording. And at the bottom, I scribbled one more note to myself. Don't get mad, get methodical. And I got to work. The next morning, I logged in like usual. Same chair, same black coffee, same stupid Slack pings. I clicked into a compliance doc I built back in the early days. My exact structure, my formatting. But it wasn't mine anymore. Half the procedures were stripped down. The red flags were gone. And at the bottom, revised by Strategy Ops, Q2, Strategy Ops. That meant Chad Jr. Back when we had 4 people in that office, he was still in high school. I remember him coming in on weekends, trying to fix the printer with a screwdriver like he was going to impress his dad. Now that kid was in charge of gutting the system I built. Fine. I let them think I didn't notice. I played dumb. But at home, I started writing. Handwritten, legal pad, blue ink. I titled the first page Clown Show, underlined it twice. Every access change, every deleted document, every streamlined policy that looked like mine with the guts ripped out. I wasn't mad. I was documenting. See, when you build a system from the ground up, you remember every joint and wire, every clause you buried in plain sight, every naming convention, every cross-reference. That stuff doesn't vanish just because some hoodie-wearing legacy brat wants to rebrand it. Couple days later, I got an email from Process Realignment. That was their new term. Not HR, not ops, just some faceless mailbox. Said my shared folders were being reallocated. For clarity, that folder had 6 years of work in it. I clicked the link. Empty. I didn't flinch, just clicked back into my personal drive. The one they didn't know I mirrored onto a local server 2 years ago when the cloud migration started. I still had everything, every version, every note, every single file they thought was gone. They didn't fire me. That would have meant writing a reason down. Cowards don't use fire. They use bleach. Quiet and slow, like it never existed. One night, Haley from HR pinged me at 7 p.m. Hey Todd, just a heads up. We're moving legacy process docs to archive. Let me know if you need anything before Friday. I replied one sentence. Already got it, thanks. Next morning, that Slack thread was deleted, but I had the screenshot. They thought they were phasing me out. They thought I'd take the hint. Early retirement, maybe. Maybe go find another little company and do it all over again. They didn't realize I wasn't clinging to the job. I was recording the demolition. One afternoon, Chad Jr. walked past my desk. No eye contact, just a smirk, like he knew something I didn't. He tossed a compliance folder on my desk. "Legacy ref, don't need it anymore," he said. I didn't even look at it. I just reached under my desk, pulled out my copy of the original document, the one with the audit trail, and laid it on top of his version. He glanced down, paused. "This one has the signed vendor clause," I said. He looked at the cover. No response. Just walked off. That's when I knew. He wasn't trying to improve anything. He was scrubbing the trail, one file at a time, one system at a time, make it look like no one ever held the line before he showed up. Problem is, I was the line, and I knew every gap they were creating in real time, because I built the damn fence, and I knew where every single wire was buried. By Friday morning, 2 more names were gone from the compliance Slack channel. No warning, no goodbye threads. Just silence, then a thread from Chad Jr. saying, "Excited to announce a new lean structure for regulatory alignment." Lean. That was the word they used. Like, cutting 12 people down to 2 was some kind of gym routine. It was just me and Devin now, a part-time contractor who couldn't tell the difference between SOC2 and soda. First day I asked him to flag a policy by revision date, and he said, "Where do I find that?" I didn't answer, just turned my monitor so he could see the metadata and moved on. Meanwhile, every compliance doc getting pushed live had holes, big ones, footers missing, date stamps wrong, links that went nowhere, legal references that didn't match the actual statutes, and they weren't typos. These were wholesale rewrites shoved through without approval flows, without oversight. I kept a list, not in the official logs. That wasn't safe anymore. At home, under a password-protected drive, I started something new. Project folder, wake up call. First file, policy mismatch Q1 diates XLSX. A line-by-line comparison between my original protocols and whatever Frankenstein versions they were slapping together. Second file, approval gaps.pdf. Slack screenshots, emails with no sign-offs, change histories with no names. I wasn't playing clean anymore. I'd already lost the team, the systems, the credit. I wasn't trying to hold ground. I was tracking damage. Midweek, I got a message from Sarah, my old protege, first person I ever trained from intern to senior associate, smart, detail-obsessed. She could audit a vendor chain in her sleep. Her message came in at 10:23 p.m., just one sentence. "I'm so sorry. They told me not to warn you." That one stopped me. I stared at it for a full minute before closing the tab. Didn't reply, couldn't. She was just another casualty, playing survival like the rest of them. But the moment I saw her name, I knew what this really was. Not downsizing, not transition. This was a cover-up, and I was done waiting to be erased. Next morning, I built a comparison table in Wake Up Call. Original policy text versus current. Color-coded gaps. Every time they skipped a step, rewrote a clause, or published without review, I flagged it. Then I added a folder called Deletions. Inside, copies of every doc that had vanished from the server. I had saved them all, years back. Habit maybe, paranoia. Either way, I had the originals. And now, I had proof they were gone. I even found a Slack thread where Chad Jr. joked, "Can we just make compliance less annoying?" Got that one printed and clipped to the front of the binder. A few days later, Devin asked me what to do with a flagged vendor list. "It's missing the audit box," he said. "Then don't touch it," I said. "Log the issue and leave the field blank." "Won't that screw the numbers?" I looked at him. "That's not your job to worry about." Because it wasn't about numbers anymore. It was about liability. And every mistake they made while I was still breathing in that office was a nail in their coffin. My job now? Hand them the hammer. That night, I scanned Sarah's message into the Wake Up Call folder, titled it Suppression Notice .pdf. Didn't even blur her name. If it came down to it, they dragged her into this too. Next morning, Maya walked in like sunshine on a landmine. Fresh coffee, bright smile, arms full of sticky notes. Barely 20 maybe. Nervous energy, business major probably. Looked like she still thought office work meant something. "Hey Todd," she chirped. "They said to purge anything marked red tag pre-2022. I blinked once. They who? Ops and HR, joint directive. Said it was part of the digital cleanup initiative. She smiled like it was a group project, like she was helping. "How many files did you delete?" I asked. "Oh, I think 15 so far." maybe more. I've been clearing through that legacy folder labeled Vendor Flag A. Half of it's junk anyway, right? Vendor Flag A wasn't junk. It held archived compliance findings, legal flags, and early vendor audits. The kind of stuff with live value in an audit. Original logs, real names, unfiltered notes. The dirt they'd never scrubbed clean. I nodded. Thanks, Maya. From now on, just CC me on anything you delete. Cool? Oh, of course. Want me to forward what I cleared today? Definitely. She skipped out like she'd just solved world peace. Meanwhile, I turned to the secondary monitor, the one that never disconnected from the old ghost drive mounted under my desk. They didn't know I still had a live mirror of that archive. Not synced, not corporate. Local, independent, untouchable. I pulled up the backup folder, searched for every file name Maya listed in her forwarded email, and began restoring them one by one. The purge? It wasn't an accident. It was a hit job. They sent her in like a scalpel. Bright, fast, and disposable. No history, no politics, just obedience. And she was perfect. Not because she knew anything, but because she didn't. She didn't understand what a red tag meant. She didn't know WOW vendor audit trails couldn't be deleted. She didn't know that what she'd wiped had regulatory timestamps. But I did. And now I had her email chain, the deleted file list, the original versions, and the metadata showing exactly when and how they disappeared. All of it went into the wake-up call folder. Subfolder, falsification, intern assisted. That same afternoon, I printed the full file list, cross-referenced it with current audit prep docs, found 6 discrepancies in under 10 minutes. That meant 6 falsified records. I labeled the hard copy, Evidence, Maya Batch 1. The best part? They trained her on Slack in a public thread. Thanks for jumping in so fast. Love this initiative energy. Great job cleaning old junk. I screenshotted every single message. Maya didn't trigger an accident. She triggered a trail, and every file she erased left behind a scar, the kind that auditors do notice. Next morning, she walked in with another list. Starting red tag subfolder B today, she said. I smiled. Mind sending me the full purge list when you're done? Totally, she did. And I did the same thing. Restored, cross-checked, printed, and filed. They weren't just rewriting history now. Problem was, I was looking. I didn't stop her. I didn't warn her. Because every purge gave me more proof, more receipts, more blind spots to flag. She was feeding me the entire blueprint of their cover-up without knowing it. By Friday, she had deleted 37 files. That Monday, I started testing the wires. Dropped a quote from Policy 14.7 into a random Slack thread about contractor onboarding. Just dropped it cold. No context, no warning. All third-party engagements must maintain signed scope and delivery docs archived for 5 years. 2 minutes later, HR replied, "Hey Todd, that policy's outdated. We streamlined it last quarter." I clicked the link they sent. Clean, pretty version. Stripped down, no clause numbers, no timestamps, no archive. So I pulled the metadata on my end. Original policy? Still active, still binding. Last verified 7 months ago. No deprecation notice, no signature log, no approval trail. I screen captured both versions, saved the Slack thread, labeled it contradiction Zorus Ars R1. Then I did it again. Different clause, different thread, same result. They kept swatting them down like flies. Oh, that's legacy. That's been sunset. That's not aligned with our updated framework. But none of their updates matched the original audit log. Half of them weren't even linked to legal anymore. I wasn't correcting them, I was baiting them. By Thursday, I had 12 contradictions, all in writing, all with HR doubling down on policy changes they couldn't back up. Next, I moved to expenses, started pulling random reimbursements from our finance system, stuff I wasn't even supposed to have access to anymore. But they forgot to cut one of my old admin hooks. Turns out we were paying $300 coffee tabs at cafes 5 blocks from HQ, labeled as networking meals. Same 3 names over and over, Chad Jr., his buddy from strategy, and some guy who didn't even work there. Then I found the invoice, ghost consulting firm, no website, no LinkedIn, just a PDF with a Gmail contact and a shared Google Drive link. $14,000 for a 3-slide PowerPoint deck titled Compliance Opportunity Scan. No author name, no timestamp, just approved by Strategy Ops. I dug into the approval path. Same fake firm, same bank routing number, same realignment tag on the invoice. And at the bottom of the workflow, Chad Jr.'s initials. Every time, I didn't need to make accusations. I just needed a catalog. So I opened a folder on my home drive. Inside it, I filed every storm cloud, policy mismatches, vendor invoices, fake firm scans, Slack contradictions, deleted document trails, expense reports, internal jokes flagged for team bonding that showed blatant fraud. No edits at all, just pure copies, proof. Because when the water rises, you don't throw a tantrum, you build a boat. And I was building mine. I posted one last clause into Slack. From our original vendor compliance framework, third-party billing in excess of $10K must include verifiable deliverables, verified by internal audit or external review. Waited. Nothing. 12 hours later, HR messaged, "This clause was retired in the last audit cycle." I replied, "Got it. Thanks." Then saved the thread, the clause, and the metadata showing that no audit cycle had removed it. They didn't even realize how deep the cracks went. I stopped asking questions, stopped sending warnings. They wanted to run a company on vibes and fake invoices. Fine, I let them. Because every mistake they made, every Slack message, every edit, every charge they thought was invisible, was another nail in the arc. I didn't need to shout. I just needed them to keep talking. They finally let me back into a budget review. Not to contribute, not to consult. Just to sit. No invite to speak. No agenda item next to my name. Just a chair at the end of the table, no mic, and a notepad, like I was someone's assistant. Perfect. I wore a plain shirt, no tie. Didn't bring my laptop, just the black folder. Inside, invoices, Slack logs, policy contradictions, deleted doc versions, audit trails with gaps big enough to drive a truck through. No theatrics, just paper. Facts. The room buzzed with fake urgency. Q3 drift, capital guidance, spend efficiency. The usual finance noise. Most of them were just waiting for their turn to flex, tossing out numbers like poker chips. I sat still. I didn't nod, didn't fidget, just waited. 23 minutes in, the CFO stopped mid-slide and said, "Why did our compliance adherence drop 17% since last quarter?" You could have heard a pin drop. Chad Jr. sat up straighter, cleared his throat. Legacy frameworks. We're in a transition phase. Todd's adapting to new structures, but there's still some friction. He glanced at me like I was supposed to back him up. I didn't. I reached into my folder and slid a single sheet across the table, faced it toward the CFO. "Here's why." He raised an eyebrow, picked it up, read the first line, then the second, third. It was the invoice. Strategic realignment package, 18th of 550s. No deliverables listed, no internal approvals. Vendor ID tied to a ghost firm. Same Gmail domain I'd already flagged 3 times. At the bottom, approved by Strategy Ops. No one said a word, just the quiet hum of the projector fan and the distant buzz of AC. The CFO turned the page. Next was the Slack log where Chad's consultant joked about billing for whatever looks strategic, time-stamped, pinned in a thread called Innovation Vibes. Next page, policy quote. Clause 10.1.3. All vendors over 10K must have itemized scopes and final deliverables archived for review. Metadata showed it was still active, still binding. I watched the CFO trace it with his finger. He didn't look up, just nodded once, slow and tight, like he was counting to 10. Nobody spoke, not even Chad Jr. I slid the rest of the folder down the table. "These aren't legacy issues," I said. "They're live breaches." That was it. I didn't raise my voice, didn't explain, didn't defend. He kept flipping through, found the audit gap sheet, the one with 6 deleted docs that had vanished without trace after Maya's purge. All tracked, all restored, all tied to active compliance requirements. He stopped on a chart showing the fall-off in vendor scrutiny over 3 months, right when Chad's ghost firm started billing. At the very back was the email from Sarah, the one that said, "They told me not to warn you." He stared at that one longer, then closed the folder, tapped it once like he was sealing it, didn't say a word, but he didn't push it back to me either. He held on to it. That's how I knew. I didn't have to make noise, didn't have to make a scene. All I had to do was show my work and hand them the match. I'd spent weeks letting them tighten their own noose, and now someone finally noticed the rope. 2 days after that budget review, the next board packet landed in my inbox. It wasn't supposed to, not directly. Someone must have forgotten to update the distro list, but there it was. PDF attachment, 79 pages, labeled Final Draft. B10 for board. I opened it, leaned back, and scrolled slow. Page after page of graphs I built from scratch, my axis labels, my color coding. Even the header layout was mine, just stripped of my name. They'd replaced it with prepared by strategy ops, like they'd been running this show the whole time. But they missed something. Page 47, section 4.3.2, still live, still in my exact words, still buried between some performance review metrics and discretionary incentive guidelines. Clause 4.3.2. Any bonus decision made based on unverified employee job hunting activity shall trigger an immediate internal audit. If substantiated, the current bonus pool is voided until risk review is complete. I remembered writing it back in year 5 during the first growth phase when one VP tried to dock a senior analyst bonus for taking recruiter calls. That clause was mine. Never removed, never flagged. Still policy. And now, very relevant, because Chad Jr. publicly announced I'd been exploring outside opportunities with zero proof and used it to strip my Q4 bonus in front of 200 witnesses. So, I got to work. No anger, no speeches, just paper. I created a new document, titled it Policy Clause 4.3.2 Violation, Supporting Evidence. Inside, full screenshot of the board packet, page 47, clause highlighted. Original version of the clause from the Legacy Compliance Archive, metadata intact. Slack logs from the all-hands call where the accusation was made. Time-stamped bonus revocation notice. Audit trail of who had access to the clause. Chat threads with HR trying to justify the policy enforcement. I flagged it for the external auditor, John Barron. Been around forever. Ex-IRS. Wore the same cheap tie to every quarterly. Didn't say much, but he read everything, especially things labeled audit prep. So I uploaded it to the board folder under that exact name. Audit prep clause .3.2 review.pdf. Didn't email anyone. Didn't send a memo. Just let it sit there. Quiet. That was the move. No noise, no alerts. Just let the match dry on its own. They wanted to use my systems without my name? Fine. But they forgot I built those systems with fire alarms wired into the walls. And this clause, it wasn't buried. It was bait. Late that night, I checked the access log. Barron opened the file. Twice. Read time, 14 minutes. He didn't message me, didn't ask questions, but I knew what that meant. Boardroom, cold air, dry as chalk. Long polished table with chairs too stiff for anyone to relax. Fake plants in the corner, buzzing light above. Everyone was already seated when I walked in. Executives lined up on one side. CEO at the head, arms crossed. Legal counsel 2 seats over, flipping through a printed packet. CFO dead center, hands folded. And Chad Jr., front and center, clicker in hand, grinning like he was about to present a TED Talk instead of a financial tombstone. I didn't say anything, just took my seat near the end. Same black folder from the budget meeting, same still face. He started talking, slides flying behind him. Q3 alignment, cross-functional momentum, vision-led culture, corporate jazz. No one cared. Then the external auditor, Barron, cleared his throat and leaned forward. He didn't look at the screen. He looked down at his notes and said, flat as glass, "Let's pause on the compliance section." Everyone shifted. Barron flipped a page and read it aloud, slow and sharp. Clause 4.3.2. Any bonus decision made based on unverified job hunting activity shall trigger an internal audit and void the bonus pool until risk review is complete. Silence. Then Barron laughed, not loud, not fake. Just one dry, bitter chuckle. The kind that says you people think you're clever? The CEO turned to him. What was that? Barron tapped the page. This clause. You enforce this? Chad Jr. leaned in, ready to charm. It's an old provision, completely outdated. We've evolved past most of that legacy stuff. Who wrote this? The CEO cut in, sharp. I didn't even blink. I did. The room went still. CFO spoke next, not looking at me. Confirmed. It's his clause. Still active, never amended. Board chair looked over. Thank you for your service, Todd. Not warm, not performative. Just final. Chad Jr. turned the color of raw steak. Okay, hold on. This is out of context. That clause was never intended for current structure. It's obsolete. Barron raised an eyebrow. It's in your board packet. Final draft, page 47. Legal counsel adjusted her glasses, flipped fast through the binder, and stopped. Froze. CFO reached into his briefcase, pulled out my black folder, laid it flat in the middle of the table. This is why adherence dropped, he said. This folder explains everything. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Chad Jr. looked down at it like it was radioactive. That data's incomplete, misleading, possibly altered. Barron cut him off. It's documented, time-stamped, verified. The auditor closed his binder with a soft thunk. Clause 4.3.2 is active, which means your bonus pool decision based on unverified job search claims triggers an audit. He didn't look at Chad. He looked at the CEO. Effective immediately. Audits live. Bonus pool is frozen. Retroactive accountability applies. The board chair didn't argue, just nodded once. Chad Jr. dropped the clicker. No one moved to pick it up. No one said a word. The PowerPoint froze on a slide that read, Quarterly Momentum. Powered by integrity. I sat still. Chad Jr. didn't say a word. He just slumped in his chair, lips tight, eyes dead on the table, like if he looked up, the room would eat him. Haley from HR kept clicking her pen, fast, over and over. Her monitor was still on the budget slide, but she wasn't seeing any of it. She looked like she wanted to disappear straight into the keyboard. The CEO didn't speak, didn't blink, just stared down at the printout of Clause 4.3.2 like it had stabbed him in the back, like it wasn't in the same manual he'd signed off on years ago. I didn't gloat, didn't smile, didn't lean back and cross my arms like some courtroom drama. I just sat there, still, solid. The clause had done its job. Barron read it again, clear, loud, slow. Then he moved straight to the violation report. Cited timestamps, violations, deleted policy records, Slack threads where Chad's team joked about canceling Todd's bonus like it's Spotify. All documented, all dated, all mine. He didn't call me a whistleblower, didn't call me loyal. He didn't call me anything. He just read what I gave him. I wasn't some disgruntled employee trying to make noise on my way out. I was the architect of the very system they tripped over. Every trap they hit was one I'd built when I still believed in the place. The board didn't argue. They didn't defend. They didn't ask a single question. They just sat there and watched Chad's little empire turn to dust, one clause at a time. He wasn't a visionary. He wasn't even competent. He was a liability. The room stayed quiet for a long time after Barron closed his folder. No one looked at me. Not the CEO, not legal, not even the ones who used to nod politely in the elevator. That was fine. I wasn't there to be thanked. When the meeting ended, everyone scattered like a power outage, except the CFO. He stood up slowly, picked up the black folder I'd left on the table, and held it with both hands like it was a sealed verdict. Didn't say anything, but he didn't let go of it either. I walked out without a word. The hallway air felt still, not warm, not cold, just clean, like the rot had finally stopped spreading. I didn't burn the place down. That would have been easy. I just lit the part they left to fester and watched the mold peel back. They tried to erase my name from the system I built, so I wrote it back in bold. The policy stood, and so did I. Nothing left to prove.